Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the Dell XPS 13. The Dell XPS 13 is probably the ultrabook of 2015, and that's why I wanted to take an extra in-depth look, because I also will think I will be harder than I maybe have to be, but also I think a few reviewers out there were maybe hard enough. And also whenever I'm interested in the device myself personally, I'm also always extra hard, and I will take therefore a deeper look. Yes, but therefore it will be a little bit longer. But if you have any issues and want to skip some part, just go into the timecodes and check for that to make it shorter, jump to just a specific point. But I would say let's just start with the device and take a look at it. As you can see it here right now, it is very small, because it is obviously the smallest 13.3 incher, because it is about of a 12 incher in size, 1.2 kilograms. That's the non-touch version here with 1080p. It is super lightweight, and of course it is super small. That is pretty much obvious, but that's not all. The materials used here on the front, on the lid, are aluminum, and it feels great. It looks great. The whole device itself, as you actually can see, looks very elegant. What I really like are the rubber feet here, because it gives it a really secure fit on the desk. Only thing wobbling was right now my camera. Also aluminum at the back. Here we have the vents. Let's check the ports real quick. Here we have the port for the charging. Here we have display port, USB 3.0, headphone jack. Here we have the power button, and here we have the button to check your battery light. Here we have one of the two stereo speakers. On the front there is nothing. On the right side we have the second speaker, full-size SD card slot, which is quite nice, USB 3.0 again, and the Kensington lock. That's pretty much all. So I have to say, in terms of design and build quality, it is absolutely great. You can't really do it much better. It is super light. It feels very sturdy, very solid. It looks just premium. So in terms of ports, there isn't too much there. You get the typical ultrabook standard stuff, but they've done a great job here. Let's take a look at the keyboard here. And I will zoom in a little bit just for you to get a better perspective. The keyboard itself now. It is, I have to say this, I have to mention this because I noticed it. The keys are a little bit smaller than usually. They are about 1 millimeter more narrow than, for example, on the MacBook Pro, and half a millimeter narrower than this. And as a whole package, if you can see, this whole size. So just real quick. So if you would take this measurement, then it is about, let me check, about 1.7 millimeters less. This shouldn't be an issue for most of the people, and also I don't think you can see it, but it is backlight in 2 steps. But I think personally the keyboard ever so slightly feels cramped when typing, and there is no flex, as you can see here. It does flex only a real little bit, but nothing you will really notice in normal use. The keys I like because they have a nice smooth texture that is very grippy, so typing is very good. Also, what I also like a lot, it is a very quiet keyboard while typing. That is definitely great. In terms of the feedback, it is also good, but what I don't like so much, the key travel. It is noticeably harder at the bottom, and you will feel like you will bottom out quite a lot of times. So I don't know, maybe some people can get fatigued by this, but I definitely noticed one thing. I did make more mistakes with this keyboard here than I do with other keyboards. I'm not saying, just comparing this with the very best out there, don't get me wrong. This keyboard is on a very high level, but there is a little bit room for improvement. I will zoom out no, I don't have to zoom out. For the touchpad itself, first time we have here glass, but I think it is almost a little bit too smooth, because it didn't give me the precision that I see on the MacBook. It works though nice, it does get 2-finger gestures well. No problems here at all. This was very nice. So if you can see here, it does pick up everything. That wasn't the issue. But for me the issue was, and I will zoom out now, what I didn't like so much was the scrolling behavior, because I think you had to move too much, and then, as you can see here, the touchpad just feels too small. Usually I do like a small, like this, and the side scrolls. But here in this case, I have to say, I have to always do quite a big flick, and then the keyboard just feels too small, not in terms of width, but here in terms of length. So I had this issue otherwise. And one thing, I'm also a little bit disappointed, we don't have any multitasking gestures or so. So this is definitely a little bit disappointing, but you can get over it, but they could have done it better. Okay, let's check the display. Sorry, I can't really get the best perspective here, the angle here for you to view, because it doesn't get more back than this. This is the limit. So I'm limited at this position. Sorry for that. But I think my camera doesn't pick up the screen that well anyways, but I will tell you what I think of the screen now. If we go now. We have 1080p. This is the matte version. There's also a 3200 by 1800 version with glossy screen. This is a non-glossy screen. And personally, I'm not a fan of anti-glare screens because they seem a little bit dull for me. They aren't that vibrant and sharp. So nothing against it. The sharpness of 1080p on this size is great because you don't have any scaling issues. This is fine. But I don't know. As for the whites, just real quick. Whites, the balance is okay. But I think the viewing angles for 13 for ultrabook with an IPS display aren't that well, because I noticed the sweet spot just isn't there. Maybe you can see it. There is quite a lot of shifting going on. So I think for an IPS it is quite a narrow sweet spot, and the white is always going a little bit more to a grayish area. So not the biggest fan of that. The black, absolutely solid, no light bleed at all, very deep. All the details within videos and so on were absolutely there. The colors as well, they are very accurate, not super punchy or saturated, but you can change it in the settings if you want to. But I found the colors, they were nice, absolutely okay, no problems at all. And I really like how it went in movies. Movies just look great, but personally, I have to say I'm just not the biggest fan of this 1080p matte panel, because a matte panel, you always have this crystallized look over the screen, and I just don't like that so much because it just isn't as vibrant and sharp. Everything seems ever so slightly blurred at the edges. It doesn't mean the display isn't sharp. The display, if you look at Explorer, for example, just real quick, is absolutely great. You have no issues here at all. Text is sharp and everything is well. And if you like an anti-glare screen with 1080p, then this will be a great choice. But if you want something more for media and for entertainment and something with a little bit of punch, I would maybe go for the 200 by 1800, but then you will lose a little bit of battery and you will get scaling issues. So there's a bit of a mixed thing here. I would have wished really for a 1440p with glare, because I don't know, I'm just a glare fan, and I don't know why the viewing angles aren't that convincing, because I noticed the sweet spots just wasn't bad. So don't get me wrong, this is complaining on a very high level. The screen itself, for what it is, for an anti-glare screen with 1080p, flawless. You have pretty much everything on the highest level because colors are great. The viewing angles, not so much, but the black, and especially for videos, everything is really nicely done. But personally, I'm just a bit biased against the against the glare, the anti-glare. So see it as it is. It is a top screen. If you like anti-glare, you will love it. You will definitely love it. But I would maybe go for the higher end 3200 by 1800 version. Okay, let's check the sound now. The speakers are here at the sides, just real quick. As you can see, they are here once again. So you will get, if you can see it, you will get here a stereo effect. Let's check the sound now. My thoughts on the sound. I am in general absolutely happy with the maximum volume. It was nice. Of course I would have wished for a little bit more, but I never felt like it had to be more. It was fine. The tonal balance was also, maybe you did notice it, there was a little bit of bass, not too much. Mids, fine. Really clear highs with almost no distortion, definitely way less than my MacBook, and that was nice to see, because especially if you watch a lot of YouTube videos with not that great sound or people just getting a bit too high pitched, it will distort. But here it was absolutely fine. One thing that wasn't maybe so great, if you listen to very complex music with a lot of instruments, the sound did compress a little bit. But the good thing here is you have max audio, and I would definitely recommend to leave it on all the time. Don't worry, you will definitely, if you adjust it, have a great experience in overall. The one thing, the stereo speakers are side firing, and for me it always sounds like the sound is actually a mono from here, a bit distant away, and I noticed this on a few other Dell that have this kind of speaker position. So I don't have an issue with the sound, but it just sounds a little bit more mono than actually stereo. But in general the sound is totally fine and still on the very highest, not the very highest level, but on a very high level after all. Okay, let's check the sound now. No, I mean, let's check the performance. Sorry for that. And I will try to get it in line again. Let's check some specs here. Okay. Here we have the SSD performance. 440 and 260. Okay, the writing speeds could be a bit higher, but 440 and 260 in general use, absolutely fine. Shouldn't be any issues here at all. We have an Intel i5 Broadwell here, so performance in general won't be the issue. And I have to say, this was actually the smoothest ultrabook I've used so far, the most snappy, the most lightweight feeling one. As you can see, of course, modern UI apps, I don't really have to show it, they run extremely buttery smooth. There's no denying in that. If we go into a PDF right now, as you can see here, you can't really trip it off. You can do it as fast as you want to. It will always be there, always loaded. And that is absolutely great. Browser performance also very convincing, very convincing. As you can see here with the mouse, absolutely. It felt really lightweight, the scrolling. And if I do it with the mouse, with the trackpad, you can see it is very smooth. No denying here, and not anything to complain. As you can see here with Chrome, a little bit less, and the mouse pad behavior is just a little bit off. The scrolling isn't that well in my opinion, so I would still use trackpad, I mean a mouse, because I'm just not the biggest fan of this trackpad. It just felt a little bit odd. It was mostly because of the scrolling behavior, but otherwise the performance is spot on. There is no denying that, and I would say from all the ultrabooks I've tested so far, and it is quite a lot of them, this is the fastest feeling one. Video rendering was very fast with the new Intel HD 5500. It was faster than my MacBook. Usually I have, like, for example, 1 minute of rendering needs 3.5 minutes on my MacBook, and it was about 2 minutes here. So quite a bit faster. This was in Adobe Premiere with my settings. But the whole flow, the whole experience on this device in terms of performance was the best I had so far. It felt very lightweight. This is on a 1080p one. I'm not so sure about the higher model. I will try to get that as well, just to see if there is a noticeable difference. But if not, this device is the best performer right there out now. Let's check the battery life now. And I will just quickly check something. Okay, battery life. As for the charging times, 1 hour and you are at about, I think it was 50%, 2 hours and you are at 99%. And to get to 100, I needed almost 3 hours. So I don't know why it takes so long for this last percent, and I noticed this on a few Dell. Maybe it's a general Windows issue or it's a Dell thing, but if this 1% doesn't matter anyway. So let's quickly get another thing out of the way. And I want to show you this just so you can see it, because battery life is something. This device is rated with 15 hours of actual use, and I personally can't see this myself. So here, check my stats. The first one isn't from me, that was when the device was just being shipped to me. But usually I got at first 5.5, 6. One time I got 740. That was a really great value. I don't know why I got that much more, because usually, as you can see here, I was very close to 6 hours, and those 5 hours and less, this was when I did a bit more of heavy testing. And of course you will think other reviewers get 10 hours, 11 hours. So why don't you get that much? And I have to say, I did try everything. And as you can quickly check, I even did a PC benchmark test. And my value was close to 5 hours. But this all was with 60% of brightness. And that was the minimum brightness I would personally use. I don't want to go any lower, because the maximum brightness of this screen isn't the best one. They say 400 nits, and in some ways 400 nits seems very bright. Sometimes it was almost blinding me, but sometimes also not, because there is this thing in the BIOS issue where it does do some power management handling in terms of the brightness, and you can't even adjust that, you can't turn it off. And that is, I'm not so sure about that, because the display sometimes didn't seem bright and I had to crank it up a lot, and sometimes it did seem bright and then I had to go a little bit down with the brightness. But still, in general, I would say 60% brightness in a dimmer lit room. And when I'm right here, right now in my studio, 100% is a must-have, because of this anti-glare. You have to, you need to adjust more brightness. You need more brightness to get everything, because it is definitely not as bright as my MacBook here. And I think that has a heavy impact on my battery life. I'm pretty sure if you go down to 30-40% of brightness, you can get way more battery life out of this. And I see people getting 8-9 hours. And I would even say in normal handling, you can get, you saw I got one 740, but my usual would be about 6 hours with my personal use. I can't say anything more. The thing is, if you get more, then it's great, but still, for me, in comparison with all the other devices, I noticed I drain my batteries faster than usually, and with 6 hours here, and even the possibility of getting close to 8 hours, it is still the best battery life as a whole package that I had so far. So I can't really say anything bad about it. It is still pretty much the best battery life, even though I don't get the high amount of screen on time as others do. As for the heat, no issues at all. I didn't notice any throttling or so. It didn't get warm because of the fans. And this is one thing. If you are doing casual things like word processing, browsing the web, watching a video, this thing is pretty much, I would say, 95% silent. In these situations, I never notice it. But the thing is, if I do, because last week, a few days ago, I tried to record a webcam, and that was enough load for the fan to almost spin all the time. It wasn't really loud, but it was there. And the thing is, if something like just a webcam recording is already enough, and if you are in Adobe Premiere, it will spin a lot of times, and during the rendering, of course, all the time. The fan itself isn't loud, but just the fact that it goes on and off so often is a little bit, I wouldn't say annoying, but not good enough for me, because I do a lot of my videos right now, as I do right now in this moment, I record with my webcam. And then I can't justify it having the fans on. This wouldn't be acceptable in this case. And that is a bit sad to see, because if you do all the normal stuff, then it is completely silent, nothing to worry about. If you do video editing, I use my headphones anyways, and then I don't care. But especially if I would do something like video editing, I mean webcamming, then not so much. Okay, let's take a look at the software now. There wasn't a really lot of bloat. That was nice. It was, so there's not much to say here. It was quite bloat free. It was very stable. I didn't have any issues at all. One thing that is a bit disappointing in terms of software, we didn't have the thing we usually got on Dell devices, the touchpad software, so I can adjust some multi-finger gestures. I didn't have those. That was a little bit odd. If they are there, please let me know, because I didn't see them. Okay, this is, I think, pretty much all I had to say for this part. And now I want to get to the recap. Once again, design and build quality, top notch. You don't get the most ports, but you get the absolute normal ultrabook standard. Everything you need on an ultrabook is there. Build quality, extremely great, super lightweight. It is the smallest after all. The keyboard itself is very good, but not the best. I just made more mistakes when typing, as I usually do, but otherwise the feedback and the low noise of the keyboard was very nice. The trackpad is something I don't like at all. The feel was okay. It was a little bit not precise enough. It was a little bit too slippery at times. And also, just real quick, the click. This click sounds extremely cheap. I usually use only tabs without the click, but this for me sounded a little bit cheap. So I'm not the biggest fan of the trackpad, because mostly of the scrolling. I had to scroll way too much, and then it was just too small. Display. not the biggest fan of a 1080p matte one, but that's a personal thing, that's a personal preference, and I get everyone who likes it. If you are outside, then you will really appreciate non-glare, but then I think also the brightness maybe won't be enough. But the qualities of it itself in general are absolutely spot on. So like I said, this is complaining on the highest level, and I'm not so sure about the 3200 by 1800 display. But I would personally, I think, prefer that, not just because of the touchscreen, but in terms of future-proofness. Once Windows gets a little bit more handling in terms of scaling, you could be okay. But for now, this is the smartest solution with 1080p, just because of the scaling. And I know a lot of people like anti-glare, so it will be great. Sound, totally fine. Not mind-blowing or anything, but absolutely convincing, loud enough. It sounded good, a little bit shallow, maybe a little bit flat, but otherwise totally fine. Performance, spot on, absolutely great. For an ultrabook, especially for that size, I was impressed to have that great of a performance, because I also had the Dell Latitude 12, which had the same CPU as far as I know, but didn't perform nearly as good as this. This was a great performer for everything, even some light gaming if you try to do so, but keep in mind it is just the onboard graphics. But performance, that's pretty much the highlight, especially for all the other qualities. Battery life, heat and noise. Battery life is absolutely great, even for my standards, even though I haven't reached the high outcomes of other people, but still from what I see, this is the best battery life so far I had, pretty much. Noise, absolutely fine. I mean the heat. The noise, I am not so sure. Normal tasks, word processing, everything super quiet, silent. But if you put on a bit of load, then you will hear them a lot. Definitely not really loud, but they are there. Okay, one thing I wanted to point out as well, the competition. Is there any competition? Because this device right now, as it is here in Germany, 1,000 euros. I think it's $900, and I got there. It was on a deal 2 times already for $900 euros. This would mean it is almost without any competition in this price class. But there's one I would like to mention, and that is the HP Spectre X360. I haven't tried it personally myself, and I doubt I will ever get a chance to it because HP doesn't respond to me. But this is the only competitor I will see, but it is quite different one. It is way bigger, way heavier, but therefore it has the convertible function and a few other great values like the 1314p glare display, something I would like to see. But if you are looking for the smallest possible 13.3-incher with great performance and overall amazing qualities, this is pretty much the only chance you can get with this device. I don't see any real competitors otherwise. There are a few similar ones, but either they are bigger, they are lower on speed, they are more expensive or so. So I would definitely like to love it more than I do, but I think that's just for my use case scenario, because I do a lot of webcam recording, and then it is just not too loud, but there is a noise, and I can't have the noise with my microphone here. So for me personally, I can't use it for what I would like to use it, but for everything else, if I would be out on the go, be very mobile with this device, then it would be the perfect office machine. Because if you are out on the go, a little bit of fan noise doesn't care you. You have all day battery life, should be good enough. You have an anti-glare display, which is great for outside. So if you are a mobile person on the go, this is a killer machine. If you use it for the school or something, it is just a great value. In terms of value, it is really hard to beat. For 900 to 1,000, you get so great specs in general that is really hard to beat. And I think I said pretty much everything. I will also do one thing I have forgotten to mention. I will do an in-depth comparison with the MacBook Pro Retina 13 for you to see if that would be maybe something to consider. And that's it for my review. If you have any questions or everything to note, if I maybe forgot something, just let me know in the comments. Otherwise, please rate, comment and subscribe. Until next time, bye.